Okay, so for this video, this is going to be pseudocode 1. It says change the flowchart 2 into pseudocode. Alright, so I'm actually just going to write flowchart 1. And I'm going to use flowchart, or what I did with flowchart 1, and just write the pseudocode for it in the different ways that I've created before. Alright, so it says, so we're not going to draw the flowchart. We already did that. Have the student enter the number of classes they're taking. For each class, the student is going to buy a notebook that costs $1.50. The student is also going to buy a package of pencils that costs $4. There's tax of 10%. Output the total cost of buying items for the class. Trace the flowchart twice, once with, okay, so. Alright. So you want to always have a start and an end. And then we'll tab in 1. And I'm going to assign my variables at the top. So we got notebook, pencils. Now I always like to lowercase my variables. I know that doesn't go well with camel casing techniques, but I don't know, that's just kind of how I learned. So when you output information to the screen, you want to say output, and you'll say enter the number of classes you are taking. And then when you want to input information into a variable, you would just have input. So whatever the user types in, I'm taking 5 classes, that would be input into the num classes variable. And then from here we can say our cost. Our cost is equal to the num classes times our notebook plus our pencils. So I'm assuming they're getting a notebook and a package of pencils for each class, so it's $5.50 per class, so you multiply by the number of classes. You might interpret that differently, I don't know. Maybe you only do 1 pencil per semester. And use it for all your different classes. Again, this is up to interpretation, and I don't think I would mark you wrong if you thought about it like that. And I could tell if you turn it in and it looks like that. Total cost is then your cost plus your original cost times the tax rate. So this will give you your taxes right here, and then you add the cost to it. So now we have our total cost calculated, and then we can just output the total cost in dollar amount plus the total cost variable. So this should be really kind of easy. The idea of pseudocode is that with like, when I was younger, I remodeled my first condo, and I spent months and months and months, drawing up the design of the kitchen and getting all the material that we would need, measurements of the oven, of the microwave, of the dishwasher, of the sink, of each cabinet, and creating blueprints of everything, because when you're doing construction, you're going to run into problems no matter what. You're going to pull a cabinet up, open behind where the dishwasher is, and realize that the people who installed everything when they built the place, they didn't they didn't have the electrical outlet up to code, and so potentially it could create a fire. So it's been fine all these years, but then you have to be the one fixing it. And so what I'm trying to say is that you're always going to have issues when you're building, even with programming. It's the same thing. You're always going to have issues, but the idea is that you're trying to solve everything you can account for up front, and that's the idea of pseudocode, is that you're just thinking through these problems before you start jumping right into the code. And this is a good strategy for newer programmers. All right, so if you wanted to do this with a loop, we could do some similar stuff here. Okay. All right, so we would do the same thing here with all of this stuff. Okay, so we copy that and paste that there. But with this, when you've got yourself like a while loop, doesn't everything I've done use a tab? It's weird that they clear all. I don't want that there. Okay, so if we're gonna do like a while loop, we would have some sort of counter variable. Now I wouldn't even call it counter. I'd probably call it I, but you're all new to this, so then we'll have a loop, and as long as the counter is less than the num classes, if that's true. Now I think they want to in your instruction guide they're putting this, as long as this is true, then we come in here and we're going to do something. And in this case, we're going to take our cost and we're going to set it equal to the cost plus the notebook plus the pencil. Actually, it's just notebook. So originally cost is going to be 0. Okay, so 0 plus 4 plus 1.5 is going to be 550, and that's your new cost. And then so depending on how many classes you have, you'll go back up and say, let's say we had 3 classes, so counter is 0, 0 is less than 3, so this would be 550, and then we would go back up. Actually, I want to do this too. At the end of this, I want to end the loop. I'm not quite done here because I want to have a counter equals counter plus 1. Okay, so counter 0, 0 is less than 3. Let's say we had 3 classes. Then we've got 550 here. That gets stored into cost. So cost is 550. Counter becomes 1. Is 1 less than 3? Yes. So then we've got 550 plus 550 is $11. And then counter becomes 2. And so it's 2 less than 3? Yes. So then we got 11 plus 550 is 1650. And then counter becomes 3. Is 3 less than 3? No. So that's false, and so the loop ends right there. So then we do the same thing. We'll just say our total cost. We already have the cost, all right? So we're going to do plus the cost times our tax rate. Okay. And then we will output okay. Again, either one of these is fine. This first one's easier. Some people might think about using a loop when they're calculating the cost. Either way, I wanted to demonstrate it for you because it's really pretty easy. especially when you're first starting to think about looping over. But this video's done.